What is software that you can't live without in your business? And maybe what's some software that you're testing out that's a little bit newer?
Software I cannot live without. I think the answer to both of those questions for me right now is
Hello, Legends of Land. Justin's the owner and driving force behind Scout Land Group. His team offers premium plots often below market value. Justin knows land just isn't about acres, it's about aspirations. Let's back up a second. Before land, Justin honed his discipline as a submarine veteran. Those deep waters taught him resilience, a trait that he seamlessly transitioned into the terrain of real estate. Justin believes in balance. He switches gears from land into his personal life. When he's not navigating the world of real estate, you might find him trekking nature trails or on a Kindle reading spree. So gear up, legends, and let's hop into the show with Justin Pichet. How you doing today, Justin?
doing good, Brian.
Tell us a little bit about your niche and what people can learn about the way that you approach land.
Yeah, right now I'm primarily focused on minor subdivides, small value-add land plays across the Southeast United States. My team does a lot of marketing for off-market deals. Typically, we're looking at properties to do a flip. However, with a small subdivide value-add play, you can have another tool in your tool belt to dispose of the land and find some profit. So it's nice being able to pay closer to market value for a property and still be able to make a profit and do deals that way. We also do a lot of owner finance properties. So generating owner finance notes from vacant land that otherwise would just be sitting there, turning land into cash flow to focus on as well.
Okay. And you mentioned that you do smaller value add subdivides. What would you consider a smaller subdivision?
Yeah, so we do big ones and small ones. Small ones are really nice. Let's say you're looking for land, you find a 20-acre parcel with great road frontage and utilities. And it's well shaped where the lot's not too deep. Maybe it's wide, and so the road frontage covers a large portion of the parcel. Taking a piece of land like that and getting a survey and then splitting it into maybe 4 or 5 acres, 2 tens, maybe something even smaller depending on how the road lays, and then selling those lots individually. That's what I would call a small subdivide.
Okay. And so part of being small is you're looking for the simplicity of the subdivide as well?
That's right. Capital costs are high for things like roads or if you're bringing in underground utilities, water, etc. Those costs are quite high and vary greatly depending on where you are located in the country. And so doing a subdivide where you don't have to bring in those capital improvements allows you to obviously pay a little bit more for the property, get it done quicker. There's less unknowns in terms of approvals, permitting, etc. I just had a plat actually denied, and we can get to that story if you're interested, for a little bit of oversight on those type of things.
Tell us about the things that you're looking for in due diligence that makes the deal simple. You mentioned some of the utilities and things like that.
Yeah, so if you have a property that has great road frontage, typically not highway frontage, typically you want like a county road, a small public road, something like that. Go down Google Street View and just look at the road and see if it makes sense to be able to put driveways off of it. If there's a lot of elevation changes or a lot of curves to it, you may have some issues with the county approving driveway locations. A lot of the counties that I work in Alabama have things like sightline distance requirements. And so that's something we look into before, like in the due diligence phase of a property. Power lines running on either side of the road is something we look for as well. Typically water, so you can see fire hydrants, or you can call the municipality and see where their water lines run and if they're allowing lots to tap in, any more lots along that road, like they have the water pressure to support. Those are some of the key kind of due diligence things that we're looking for. And then what I'll also do is I'll go through the county subdivision regulations and highway department regulations to see what kind of roads you're allowed to subdivide off of. For example, if it's not a county maintained road, a lot of times you have to bring the road up to county specs to be able to actually subdivide off of it, which county specs could be a 4-foot wide asphalt road. You got to put base down, you got to put the asphalt down, and now you're talking $150, $200 a foot for the road. Just destroys projects.
And so those are things that you just don't even deal with those. If you find a due diligence or something like that, you move on. Is that right?
Yeah, you can always underwrite it into the project. I've done looked at a couple of projects to putting in roads, and sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times the answer is just, hey, if you're going to have to raise all of that capital for the road and improvements outside of like bank financing, for example, then it's going to be really hard to get the cash on cash return that you're looking for in a project.
And did you start in more traditional land flipping, or did you go straight into subdividing and value add?
Yeah, so if you want to hear the origin story, so I was in the Navy. Then I worked for ExxonMobil, and I was just looking to do something else other than the corporate life. I'd done a couple of houses wholesaling, bought some small houses in Kansas City, and flipped them for profit without doing anything. Kind of like not really wholesaling. I actually took title, and then I sold the properties to somebody else. But at the same time, a friend of mine, Kyle Bryant, he has a company called Crockett Capital right now, and he was doing land flipping, asked me to finance a deal for him. And within, I don't know, a couple months, I essentially doubled my money. And I was like, wow, there's something here. This is interesting. And so I asked him to be my coach. I said, hey, would you coach me? And he said, hey, I will, but I'm a part of a program called Learn Land, which is a guy named Clint Turner runs Learn Land. So I paid for coaching through Learn Land, and that's where I got started. It was a land flipping model, showing you how to building a business from the ground up, focusing on more, I don't know, higher dollar deals, not necessarily desert squares, but more buy for 20 grand, buy for 50 grand, and then sell for whatever multiple of that you need to make your profits. So that's how I started, was following Clint Turner's model, Learn Land model.
And is Fred Turner still active with the Learn Land program?
Yeah, Clint Turner got a good team behind him. Ajay Sharma, another buddy of mine, is on the Learn Land team. But yeah, they still do coaching to my knowledge. They have a mastermind as well.
And then on top of your subdividing value add, you're also have a website where you're offering properties for sale. Do you sell a lot of the properties off your website? And how do you go about marketing them when you're ready to turn them over?
Yeah, good question. I don't think we sell a lot of properties off of the website. The website, at least for me, is not necessarily like a marketing tool per se, but more of a repository to direct people to. And just real quick on like how I got into subdividing, I joined the Casual Fridays REI subdividing masterclass. Justin Sleva, Trevor Program, Adam Southey, those guys put that masterclass on, and it's just a great group of guys who all are doing kind of these larger subdivision tracks around the country. I got a couple of 150, 170 acre subdivides in Alabama that I'm working on, another 50 acre in Georgia, and a few other around. And that's what that group focuses on, larger tracks and cutting them up in a more attainable.
And is that group still active and somewhere you'd recommend someone going from into the subdividing realm?
Yeah, they don't, it's like a application program. They only do it so every so often. So it's not like the master class isn't something necessarily you can just join. But the REI Casual Fridays guys, Justin Sleva, Adam Southey, they have a training program course kind of thing that you can buy. And I think they'll do consulting work for you as well. Like, so I know some guys that have done this where you've had some challenging deals and trying to figure out what the right move forward is, and book some consulting time with Justin Sleva, and he'll give you his honest thoughts on him. He's a really smart guy. Been doing it for a while.
Wonderful. That's a great connection for people, because I know that sometimes people may be doing land flips and then they get into something where like, oh, this is a perfect subdivide, but they're not real sure. They don't want to jump in over their heads. But if with a tool like that's a great resource.
Yeah, exactly.
What is software that you can't live without in your business? And maybe what's some software that you're testing out that's a little bit newer?
Yeah. Okay. Software I cannot live without. I think the answer to both of those questions for me right now is Follow Up Boss. Follow Up Boss is typically a realtor, a real estate broker type software where you can track all of your leads, incoming leads, and put them on action plans where you send follow-up emails, follow-up texts, etc., task lists, deal flow. It's an all-in-one CRM, but the priority focus is on lead management. And so I've used Follow Up Boss on the sales side of my business to track buyer leads for properties that we're selling, basically since I started the business. But just recently, I've moved my acquisitions contact management over to Follow Up Boss as well. And so I have experience with it on the sales side. It's really exceptionally powerful software. And because we're already using it for sales, we're actually saving a little bit of money each month by implementing like the pro plan. I can't remember what the plan is, but essentially $500 a month. It covers all of my phone, all of my intake and sales kind of CRM. It's not necessarily my deal flow CRM. I use a program called Notion with a custom workflow that actually Kyle Bryant helped develop. for my deal flow pipeline and some other tracking. But when it comes to just pure contacts, phone numbers, emails, tracking the contact, like what we've sent to them, what texts we've sent, what emails we sent, when the last time we contacted them was, whether they opened our emails or not, all that type of stuff is in Follow Up Boss.
Great information there. And you use Notion, your due diligence and your deal flow purchasing and then selling the property, or how do you use Notion as far as your processes go?
So Notion is like all of our track. So we have a lead pipeline or a deal pipeline built in Notion where we get let's say we get a lead. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. You get a contact. You upload somebody into Follow Up Boss, and then you start to market to that person. So you might send them mail, you might send them texts, you might drop ringless voicemails, etc. to them. Whatever your market, you might cold call them, whatever your marketing tactic is. But until that person replies and also has some interest or motivation to sell, they're not really a lead. And so we don't want to muddle our system, our primary monitoring system up with all of those people. So that's why they go into Follow Up Boss. We follow up with them, we market to them, et cetera. And then once they reply and there's some sort of interest, we're interested in both buying the property and they're interested in selling, that person then becomes a lead. And once a lead is created, that's where we start tracking in Notion. And so in Notion it's like a databases and dashboards. So databases are just essentially Excel spreadsheets built in. And then the dashboard is a way of visually displaying that information. So each new lead becomes a line in the spreadsheet, and we have all this information about that lead that we put in, what their APN is, what the acreage is, whether there's utilities or not, where it is, where they live, all their age, all these different pieces of information that are useful to us. And then we can take all that information and put it into a nice visual format so that my lead manager, for example, can go in, pull up a property card, see like the land ID kind of shape of everything, see what our priced comps are, see a bunch of information, what our price per acre offer price should be, whether we mailed them, how much it will the mailing, what we offer on the mailing, what type of marketing they've been exposed to, have we texted, have we dropped a voicemail, have we called them, what have we done with them? All that's in one spot visually, and then we can move those tiles through the deal process. First is, hey, we need to comp this person. So they do a bunch of work, enter in all that information, it sticks with the card. And then once it's comped, we need to contact them. So we call them, and then once we've called them, we can decide, oh, no, this is a discard, like they're not going to sell to us. Or we're close, we're in negotiation, right? And then you have the negotiation phase. Oh, we've sent a contract, now let's move to the next stage. And then we can follow up trying to get that contract signed. Once it's been signed, now it's under contract. We consider that in inventory, almost, not quite. It's an escrow. And then once it's an escrow, that's a whole nother series of actions that my transaction coordinator then takes on, right? Reaching out to the title company, following up on due diligence or earnest money, keeping in communication with the seller and the title company, scheduling closing, keeping me informed of when I need to have money ready to go to buy these properties, all that kind of stuff.
At the beginning, you mentioned that the Notion template was developed by someone. Could you repeat that part? Is that something that people can find online somewhere, or what's that?
Yeah, so I've mentioned it a couple of times. Kyle, I gotta give credit where credit is due. A friend of mine, Kyle Bryant, who's on Twitter as T Kyle. He's been land investing since 2019. He's worked with the Learn Land team. I think now he's doing a fund, looking to do conservation developments in Tennessee. I think he does some consulting and stuff as well, but he got really into Notion as a software and developed his own pipeline CRM and templates, and then I worked with him to get those templates, and I've modified them to my own designs, but the base was from Kyle.
Okay, great. Is that something that Kyle offers? Does he have a Twitter thread about it, or is it something that he offers out there?
I think somebody would just have to shoot him a DM on Twitter and ask him. Honestly, that's probably the best way to get a hold of him.
Yeah, that's a great follow, another great resource. Thank you. Speaking of Twitter, if you could send one message that everyone on the internet would see, a tweet, what would you say to everyone about the business, the game?
Oh my God. I don't think I would say anything about this, honestly. I think a lot of us do work so that we can have the lifestyles we want. My primary purpose in working is being able to spend as much time with my kids as possible, really, while they're young, especially. And that's the reason why I started this business in the first place, to have agency over my time, to have control over how I spend my mornings and my evenings, and not miss riding my bike with my daughter to school. or bringing my son to school. I have an e-bike, so I typically will pop them on the e-bike and ride them to school, each of them, drop them off like I did this morning, and then grab a coffee and walk my dog and start work around 9:30. So I'd say something in line with that. Figure out where your priorities are. If work is your priority, then I don't know if your purpose is the right purpose. It's not for me.
That is a beautiful take right there. Thank you. Yeah, I've actually found that a lot of the land investors that I've talked to have said something similar. It's a lifestyle business. A lot of people do it because they want to be with their family. They want to build something that they can build processes and systems, and so that they can live their own life. And yeah, so that's fantastic. Great answer.
Yeah.
If that's not inspiring, I don't know what is. So good answer.
Yeah, and just like to add on to that a little bit, I think that this business it takes so many different shapes and sizes. And I think a lot of people, especially when they're starting, can hear about how well somebody's doing or what they're doing and think, oh, I need to do that. Like, I need to do that thing, or I need to do that thing. There's a million ways to do it. There's people wholesaling. There's people who never close on a property. They double close everything, or they assign notes. That's fine. That's totally fine. Like, if somebody wants to do it, that's great. That's a great way to get started with really low cash. You're going to have to work real hard to get those deals done, and a lot more might fall apart because you have a limited timeline, etc. But that's a great way to get started. Some people only buy huge tracts and subdivide, and they do one deal a year, 2 deals a year. That's great. That's a lot of eggs in one basket. For me personally, I like to spread the risk out a little bit, maybe do a little more deal flow, smaller deals. But you do one deal and you make 500 grand from it a year. It's a good life. And there's people that just flip high dollars, people flip low dollars, find what works for you, and design the team and processes around how much you're interested in working and how much time you're interested in spending in the business. I think for me, I'm not interested in spending more than 40 hours a week doing this. If it takes more than that, then I need to obviously hire somebody, bring them on to get me out of that portion of the business.
In that same vein of thinking, there's 1,000 ways that you can go when you first get into land investing. If you were giving advice to someone newer into land investing and saying, here's a spot for you to focus and grab on, here's a buy box to start with to get you rolling, what is a simple entry point into land that you'd recommend?
Man, at first I would say either start in your backyard or start in a market that you're familiar with. I think if you're starting, it's a lot easier to do deals when you know what you're talking about. So if you live in, I don't know, Missouri, for example, and you live near Kansas City, Missouri, like, I would start looking for land tracts in the counties surrounding Kansas City, Missouri, because I'm there and I know the area. I know what area is hot. It's easier for me to form relationships with a team on the ground, with surveyors, with realtors that can help me value the property. It's easy to find investors from family and friends when I can say, hey, I just picked up this 50 acres for $3,000 an acre in this county right next to Kansas City. I think it's worth whatever, $6,000 an acre. Are you interested in investing in this deal? They can see the numbers. They're familiar with it too. It's just, there's a lot of barriers that aren't there if you're starting in the backyard. And then probably the other thing I would say is, don't be afraid to hire quickly. I think that people, if you're trying to do everything, it may be challenging to scale at the level you want to. I'm an advocate of hiring folks to replace some of the administrative and like monotonous tasks that are just inherent to this type of a business quickly, and just knowing from the get-go, from the onset, hey, I need to bring somebody in to help me get to that next level quick.
What positions would you hire for as your first, let's say, 3 hires?
Yeah. Okay. So if I was starting a business from scratch right now, let's just go with that. If I just boom, I'm starting. There's a couple things I would do. The first thing I would do is I would get a launch control subscription. So launch control is another software that's like I use for my business every day. It's a texting software that allows you to text off-market leads, and it may be the lowest cost per lead. It may be, if it's not the lowest cost per lead, it's one of the lowest cost per leads. And then I would hire somebody to run that texting system. So that would be the first hire. It would be like an acquisitions assistant, somebody who can send out texts and reply to people as they're replying real time, and ask questions to try to qualify leads, so that anybody who is reasonably interested in selling that we were reasonably interested in buying, they could forward to me, and then I would spend my time kind of comping, calling, negotiating, and buying whatever for the first hire. And then, gosh, second hire would probably be someone on the, you don't actually, honestly, you don't even have to hire anybody on sales, because you could just list up with realtors for all these properties. So I don't know if I would hire that person second. I'd probably hire another acquisitions person to do the same thing, to scale to even more leads, number two, and then probably a transaction coordinator, somebody who can help me just do all the administrative work. Transaction coordinator, executive assistant, somewhere in that realm that basically takes off your plate a lot of the day-to-day grind.
And where would you hire them?
So I have, let's see, my team is structured. I used to have 13 on my team, but we've scaled back a little bit. We have 7 right now. I have 4 employees based in the Philippines. I have 2 employees based in Latin America, 1 in Colombia and 1 in Uruguay. And then I have a U.S., I guess I have 2, actually technically 2 U.S. based folks. One's part-time marketing manager, and the other one is full-time sales manager. I think for those first hires, I would hire overseas. I'd probably post a job on remoteco.com. That's my preferred online hiring board. It's basically Latin American applicants to your jobs. Any country really in Latin America can apply to these remote positions, and it's relatively cheap. It's like $200 for a month of multiple job postings, and I think you can get 50 or 60 applicants, which is plenty, honestly, for this. And yeah, I would hire overseas just because just the lower cost of acquisitions. You have incredible talent overseas that just by nature of where they live have a significantly lower cost of living. And for somebody in the U.S. couldn't maybe necessarily survive very well on 15 grand a year, 20 grand a year. But somebody living in Latin America, that's a fantastic salary for what they pay in rent and what they pay in food, et cetera.
Yeah, I think global talent is just a wave that's not slowing down at this point, because there's such great talent and it's a great way to build a team. Is there positions that you would only hire in the US?
Yeah, I think I would only hire if I was hiring an executive. So that's probably going to be my next hire personally. Actually, that's not true. I have a sales associate position I'm hiring for right now. But after that, the next hire is going to be an admin executive assistant, and that person will be US based. And the reason why they're going to be US based is because now that I've gone up in transaction volume, I spend hours each week just going to title company, or maybe not going to title companies, going to like the UPS store and overnighting documents, or going to a notary and getting things notarized, or whatever other random administrative task that needs to be done. I don't want to do those things anymore. I don't want to have to go in the middle of the day and leave for an hour and a half and go get something notarized just to send it off. An executive assistant that's US based, that is a task that I could offload to them.
Okay. And so that's specifically because they need to be US based for physical transactions, paperwork, and things like that.
100%. Yeah, that's probably the only reason why I think I would hire that.
What's some of the bad advice that you see tossed around often in the land world?
I think there's been a pull away from it, but I think that some of the bad advice is just lock things up under contract forever and just try to flip the contract. I think that's disingenuous. It puts the seller in a really tough position, and if you never have the intent of buying it, it's like borderline unethical to lock something up with no intent of buying it for a super long time. I don't know how. I actually don't. I'm not really exposed to a lot of bad advice in the land space. I try to focus in on folks that that people that I'm following or people that I'm learning from that are giving good advice. I don't know.
And the whole land wholesaling thing never really resonated with me, and I think it's because of how you put it. It's almost like you're in that business, you're getting over on someone, and I like the idea of being able to add value. This person, you're adding value because they want cash quickly. They've got a wedding to pay for. They're not worried about, they know that you're not offering a market value, but they just want cash. It's worth it for them to have the value of cash in hand and not deal with the transaction.
Yeah.
I much like that approach better than we're locking you into a contract.
Similar to, let's say you were going to buy a new car. You were going to a dealer and you had a car you were going to trade in. Similar when you go to trade in your car, they're not going to give you the best dollar for your car. They don't. But because it's easy, that's what most people do. I mean, you're doing the same thing when you're offering for some of these off-market deals. Is you're saying, hey, I'm coming with cash, I'm closing relatively quick, and you don't really have to do anything or worry about anything. It's like an easy button.
Yeah, I love that take. What's an unusual habit or something absurd that you love, either in land or just in general?
That's an absurd thing that I love. It's not absurd, but I really love getting checks in the mail. I do a lot of wiring and stuff, but wiring sending your account is great. But there's just something about opening up an envelope and getting a check from a piece of land that you finally sold. That's not obscure. I think that's pretty normal. I think most people enjoy that part of the business, but I've been thinking about that recently. It's fun. It's wow. I can't believe, especially on bigger deals, you're like, wow, I can't believe this is my check from this deal that I just did.
It probably does make it feel more real. You have actually something physical in your hands, and just wow, it's actually it worked.
It worked.
Is it?
I usually take a picture and send it to my team on Slack and just be like, woohoo, guys, like congrats. Because everybody, just the way my like team compensation is, everybody has a base salary essentially. And the expectation is they work 40 hours a week. We don't really track hours, but the team works 40 hours a week. And then there's incentives. They get commission for everybody on the team gets a commission for every property that we sell. And then based on quarterly profits, we'll do like a profit distribution for the team. So I like that compensation model because everybody is aligned, but the more deals and the higher quality deals we do, the better all of us do. There's no pitting the team against each other. Like there's no, hey, you're the acquisitions associate that got this under contract, so you get the bonus for this property. And you're the acquisition associate that got this one, so you get the bonus for it. No, none of that. Everybody gets a piece of everything that we do, and it just fosters a lot of teamwork. Good handoffs, the team working really hard not to drop any of the systems that we're running, right? Because complicated when you're dropping thousands of texts and thousands of ringless voicemails a day and you're sending mail.
You're incentivized for the whole thing to work, not just for your silo to work. What type of overall percentage do you put towards incentives? And they could be just ballpark. You don't have to give exact.
Golly, that's a great question. So I don't earmark a certain percent. Everybody has a rate. So for maybe it's $100 or maybe it's $150 or whatever it is per property sold commission that they get. It's just a dollar amount. So like some deals I don't make that great. Like I finally got rid of a property I've been holding for 10 months that I bought for 24 grand. I sold it for, I think after realtor commission, I got 27 back, 3 grand. That was one of my worst deals. That's okay. Whatever. I was happy to get rid of it. Public service announcement. Maybe don't buy HOA properties in North Carolina.
Nice.
But anyway, I've learned that lesson a couple times over now. But I sold a small profit, like 3 grand, 4 grand, whatever. I think half of it went to my team, and commissions. But then we have a great profit where we make 100 grand on a property, and then say they get the same commissions for the property, but then the bonus at the end of the quarter, discretionary. It really is it's not necessarily a set percentage. It's just based on how much capital we have, what our cash commitments are for the next quarter that are already allocated, interest payments, etc. It's not really a set formula. More of a feeling.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It sounds like you you have a good culture with what you do. And I think that's probably something to build towards as I think about how to build my team.
Yeah. I think that people work for people, right? I think they work for people they like and they're loyal to people they like and so that treat them well. And if I expect my team to be really engaged in the process and take ownership, I don't have to take care of them, right? I have to make it worth their while. I have to let them know that I have their back and show that through both compensation and just through the way that we interact in the day-to-day.
What's your interaction channels look like? Is everyone in Slack, or what's your main way to stay abreast of everything happening?
Yeah, Slack. Slack is fantastic. Everybody's in Slack. We obviously all have emails as well, company emails. There's a couple different brands underneath my umbrella, so there's some different emails back and forth, and we'll send documents and stuff email every once in a while. But Slack is just a really versatile tool. Setting up different rooms or threads or whatever for each topic. Certain people can go in certain groups. You can drop files. You can link Zoom. You can link Loom videos. You can do all kinds of things with Slack integration. So that's what we do. Zapier automations, alerts on channels when people have, inquired about property or put deposits down or paid their monthly payment for their mortgage, whatever it might be. All that can be set up.
Outside of the subdividing value add in the business you're running there, do you offer any other tools or coaching or kind of any other things? Do you have any other businesses surrounding the direct land business that you do?
I think it's a long-term strategy for a lot of folks is to take some of this active cash flow and turn it into real estate assets, depreciable, cash flowing real estate assets. Right? So there's that whole side of the business, which is a separate business, which is just looking for commercial property, looking for luxury short-term rentals, looking for experiential hospitality type businesses that is ancillary to the land business. The purpose of the land business is really to generate cash and generate mortgages.
You mentioned an interesting niche there. You said luxury short-term rentals. So is that, I like that because you have a depreciating asset, but you also have somewhere you can go on vacation. It sounds like. So I'll deal with that angle.
No, that's exactly it. Back in 2021, right before I decided, hey, I'm leaving the corporate world, and I saw the writing on the wall for interest rates going up with just the incredible amount of money that the government printed or created. My wife and I decided to buy a 10-bedroom house in North Carolina, and we just thought, man, we should try to get essentially as big of a loan at as low of an interest rate as we possibly can right now, and make sure the asset is cash flowing. And before I quit a W-2 job, and for those of you who haven't, for those listeners or whatever that haven't quit their W-2 job, if you want to get lending, don't quit it yet.
Yeah.
Because banks typically don't care about your business for the first 2 years. They won't really consider much of anything of your business for the first 2 years until it's been consistently operating at a higher level. And even then, they'll give you a lot of scrutiny for what your real income is. They really just care, can you pay their monthly payment? So anyway, we saw the writing on the wall. We bought a big Airbnb and did a large renovation on it. And it's a great investment. I mean, it sleeps 30 people. It's in North Carolina. It cash flows quite a bit of money, and it's just been a really good investment for us. So my goal, honestly, is to just buy more things like that. I think the larger homes, when you're going after short-term rentals, are probably better. There's a dime a dozen 3-bedrooms and 4-bedroom homes, but once you get up to 5, 6, 7, 8 bedrooms, your options are significantly limited. For a group of 20 people, where can you all stay together? There's just not that many places, so you're a little bit insulated. Airbnb bust.
Yeah, 2 great strategies there with the hedging against inflation by taking on debt at low interest before it happened. That was a slick move. What's a new belief or a behavior or habit that you've taken up in the last year that's improved your life significantly?
Man, this one I actually do have an answer for. Honestly, daily exercise. I was always been like a relatively athletic fit person, but I got hurt right around the time my son was born, my second child, doing something really dumb, and I stopped working out for a period of time. And I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. I had a newborn and a toddler, and things weren't going well. I just got really demotivated, and I was starting this business, so like a lot of stress, not sleeping much, just really demotivated. I let my weight, I'm 6'1", and so I let my weight got up to 210, 212, somewhere in that range, and just did not feel good. And so in January, I started working out essentially daily, eating better, and lost 30 pounds. And that has just drastically improved my life over the last 6 months. Just being in shape, having more energy, getting better sleep, all of those things. I was like falling asleep, trying to work during the day, just sluggish, not feeling good at all. And then I feel fantastic.
Good for you for taking control and building a structure to your life that works so well. I think that's coming full circle. The thing that's great about the land business is stories like yours, where you've built the lifestyle, you're putting your family first, being able to spend time with them. You're building a business that's going to take care of them, and doing it your own way, staying fit along the way. So that's great. That's great. Justin, where can people find you online? Where would you point people to see you, get in touch with you? What's your online presence?
Limited, to say the least. I'm not a very big online person, although I recently started a Twitter. That's where we got connected. And so people can find me at Twitter at scouting4land. That's probably the best place. I try to put out like some sort of deal deep dive weekly. I missed last week because I was on vacation. I'll probably put out 2 this week, but just like breaking down real deals that I've done. I think in the space, a lot of people talk about how amazing this deal was or amazing that deal was. Not every deal is amazing. Maybe it is. I don't know for you. Who knows? But I find that not every deal is amazing. Sometimes you're wrong, and it's okay to be wrong. Hopefully other people can learn from my mistakes and my wins.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming on the show today, Justin. I appreciate your time. learned a lot from you. And yeah, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it. It's been fun.